everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk about Black History Month, the month that is a celebration of my people, because I am a black man and everything. And it's about all our accomplishments, all the oppression that we have gone through over like centuries of living in like America and stuff like that. And even till this day, we are still being oppressed. And so I'm here today to talk to you about certain characters or TV shows or episodes that revolve around Black History Month that I personally enjoy. So I'm here today to talk to you about The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Season 1, Episode 6, Mistaken Identity. This is a very good episode in teaching Black people just that, like, even though it's not the 1950s or 60s anymore, that there are still those that will misjudge you all because of the way you look and harass you all because of the color of your skin. This episode deals with when Carlton and Will were driving I think it was a Mercedes Benz. It was their father's partner's car, and they get pulled over by the police. And the police didn't want to listen to whatever Carlton had to say, and they just locked them up. As Will is trying to explain to Carlton the how like times haven't changed that much, and how like white people assume that black people can't drive around in nice cars and in nice neighborhoods, and they assume they're always up to no good. Even though this episode is played for laughs, it is an extremely good lesson in how the world misjudge black people and assume the worst about us. So the episode, it starts off when like they're at home and the parents are getting ready to go on this like retreat for the weekend with Uncle Phil's like business partner. And I gotta say, I love The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That was one of my all-time favorite shows. And it made Will Smith into like a superstar. And it came out, I believe, in 1991. Around the time a lot of new black comedies were starting to like emerge. But this was one of the first of the 90s. I don't know what came out in the actual 1990. But yeah, this came out like in 1991. And it lasted for 6 seasons. And of course, there is the new reboot. I haven't seen that yet. I can't wait to watch it. And so in this episode, Hillary is supposed to watch Ashley while Jeffrey is like off duty for the weekend. And Will wants to go on the retreat with Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv. Now, this is the original Aunt Viv, the dark skinned one. And so, like, they say, you know, kids aren't allowed, blah, blah, stuff like that, because they're teenagers and stuff, him and Carlton. So Will comes up with an idea. He's going to ask Mr. Firth if he can drive his car to Palm Springs, since he's a responsible adult and everything like that. Or you need, like, a responsible young person, something like that. And so Mr. Firth doesn't want Will, he wants Carlton, because he knows him. Carlton is this, you know, like he's black, but he's very like, you know, sophisticated, very proper, very prim, very preppy and everything. Many people say that Carlton is like a white dude inside like a black dude body and stuff. And so, like, but it's only because of how he grew up and how he was raised, you know? He grew up differently than most, like, other blacks, along with Ashley and, like, Hillary. Like, they live in, like, Beverly Hills in a mansion. Their mom grew up in the projects, and their dad grew up on the farm. They worked hard to get where they were, and now they're living the life and everything. So it's one of those type of shows that wants to show black people in a good light and stuff like that, so they can achieve and try to like strive for like what they have on the show. A good teaching lesson and stuff. And so like Will, on the other hand, he grew up in Philadelphia, and Will is about as like ghetto as ghetto can come. So when he went to Bel-Air, he turned it upside down. I think that's also in the intro. It's one of those shows where the intro literally explains what happened to Will and how he got there. Like, you don't even have to you can watch any episode and you'll know exactly what it's about, all because of that. And so when Will went to like his family in Bel-Air and stuff, they like wasn't really accustomed to like how he acted, even though his aunt, who is like that's his biological aunt, like grew up in the projects and stuff like that. But she has forgotten her old ways because of her new lifestyle and everything. And so like it was a huge cultural shock to like the Banks family when Will came, and it was a huge shock to him. In the end, both were able to bring out the better sides of each other. Him and Carlton, even though they're cousins and they clash a lot, they do have a mutual respect for each other towards the end, to where they become literally like brothers and learn to respect the other person. Because when the shows first started, Will didn't like Carlton because Carlton, in his mind, acts like a white boy. And Carlton doesn't like Will because Will is ghetto and everything. And so, but like in the end of the series, like I said before, they do have a mutual respect for each other and become like brothers. It would be so, like when this reboot started, honestly, I wanted to see him and Will. Like, I just wanted to see like a TV movie or something like where their lives ended up as they're adults. Because we all know Will, he it was weird how his ended. Like he learned a lot from living there, but still he was just like as lost as ever in the last episode with the family moving on, and him and Uncle Phil told me, it's time for you to be a man and move out on your own. And Will just kind of like, well, what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm saying? That was kind of like a weird way to end that for him after he learned like so much and went through so much and stuff. So that was always a weird finale for me. But so anyway, so in this episode, Will's a little niff that, he asked Carlton to drive the car and not him. And chances are it's because Will is the way he is and Carlton is the way he is. And so he just didn't trust Will. So anyways, they're driving, well, Carlton is driving in the car and he doesn't know like Will's in the back seat had like stowed away, and he has like a Freddy Krueger mask in hand and scares the piss out of Carlton and stuff. So Carlton tells him, you can stay on this ride as long as you behave yourself and all this. Well, of course, Will doesn't. He clowns on him the entire time. So after Will had to use the restroom, they got back on the road without a map and they got lost, which caused Carlton to drive very slow. Next thing you know, they got pulled over by cops. Will is worried and tells him just to like gun it, just like hit your like foot on the pedal and just like go as fast as you can, which is not the best thing to do. But Will is scared because Will knows exactly what's about to happen. And so like, and Carlton's all like, the cops are our friends and this and that, and they're here to protect us. But Will's all like, nah, man, it ain't like that. So anyway, they end up getting like arrested and they get put in jail. And when they get put in jail, they both get their one phone call. Now, Carlton is explaining everything to a T as to what's going on about his lavish lifestyle, his education system, this and that. But the cops don't believe it because he's black, and they assume all black people are like poor and dumb and everything. And so while they're in there, like it's funny because it's this white dude who's like singing really good. I gotta look up see who that dude is because he's a really good singer, which scares Will. Will's all like, if you ever see a white man in jail, he did something wrong. So anyway, Carlton tries to call the retreat, but the Mr. First wife can't understand what he's saying because it's so loud. So then Will tries to call Hillary, but Hillary and everybody at the house is being lazy. And then when the butler finally answers, he like misinterprets the call and just hangs up on Will, getting like agitated and stuff. So while in there, Carlton tells him that, at the retreat, they're watching the football game. So Will comes up with an idea to get everybody to watch. Now, I don't understand how this went global, but hey, whatever. So they call like a news company to like confess to like the crimes of stealing cars. That's what the cops think. They stole a bunch of cars and stuff like that. So Will does the most hilarious thing ever. He's dressed like a gangster talking about how he stole this car and he stole this. He's the ringleader, and Carlton's on there crying, which brings Uncle Phil and Viv to like the police station, right? Now the cops, what they should have done is they should have tried contacting their guardians or like the dude who's the owner of the car, and they said they got them because they assumed they stole cars and they were driving slow and all this other stuff. Aunt Viv, she hands them like a mouthful. And then Uncle Phil, he gets into a shouting match with the cop until Mr. Firth shows up. They didn't believe Uncle Phil or Viv until Mr. Firth showed up. Why? Because he is white. And so then they're released from prison. When they come back home and everything, this is the wake up call that Carlton should have had, but he did not. And Will is trying to explain to him, like, driving slow, not having a map, and your little education and like where you live at does not matter to them. All they saw is you were driving while black in a nice car, and that's why we got pulled over. Carlton does not want to believe this. So then he asks his dad that, if you saw somebody driving 2 miles an hour, would you pull them over? And his dad said he asked himself the same thing until he got pulled over himself when he was younger. And then he tells his son good night. So Carlton sits on the couch in dismay, confused, talking about he will pull that person over. Even though this was played for laughs, it was still that of a serious matter. And it's like this happens all too soon. All too well when it comes to like young black people and like certain like hateful white cops. Now, to be fair, not all cops are bad. And that is one misconception. And not all white people are bad. However, there are still those that are rooted in racism and they will do things like this. Why? Because it's how they've been taught, it's how they've been raised, it's been integrated in their like DNA and stuff. And the thing is like when a person now, okay, it is true. You're not supposed to drive slow. That is technically against the law, but that don't mean you have to arrest somebody. What you're supposed to do when somebody's driving slow is normally because something is wrong with the car, which those cops did not ask. And they're supposed to give aid in case the car is like messed up, which those cops did not do. And they literally only pulled Carlton and Will over only because they're black and they were driving a really fancy car. And the thing is that you don't see this really happening to white people at all. They could drive whatever kind of car they want, and this would never happen. It could be an Asian person and a Hispanic person, sometimes Hispanic, sometimes. But mostly it happens to blacks, sadly. And I remember when I watched this as a kid, because I was really young when this came out. Maybe I was 10, something like that. And I remember thinking in this episode, listening to what everybody's saying, and thinking to myself, well, maybe, not all cops are like that. Maybe it's just like the racist ones. Or maybe since times have changed, like this won't happen again. And then about 20 years later, it happened to me. And I wasn't even in a car. I was just taking my normal like morning bike ride and everything. And next thing I know, I'm getting pulled over by a cop, interrogated, and all this other crap. And like, it was like one of the most shocking like experiences of my life, like an eye opener. And I remember this episode like fondly when that happened. And I remember one time I was driving with my friend. We are going to the beach at night. He was speeding and got pulled over by a cop. And I remember the cop was pretty friendly to him. Not overly friendly, but just like a stern friendly. And then I kept hearing the cop's voice, but I couldn't see the cop. And the cop sounded kind of like a woman almost, but kind of like a man. So I was just like, well, what is this, a man or a woman? So I leaned my head over just to look. That cop was so rude and nasty to me. Talking about, don't you look at me and put your head back and all this other crap. I'm just thinking to myself, now you over here being nice as can be to my friend, but as soon as you see me, you have to like act like you're in the 1950s and stuff. And it's cops like that give other cops a bad reputation. Because, I had a friend in college that was a cop, and she was a really sweet person. And it's really sad that this is still happening today, but now it's a whole lot different. Now when cops get like racist and agitated, now they just want to shoot first and ask questions later. Happy Black History Month, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Bye.